Well, your regular host, Paul Holden, decided to take a week off, but the Rockies didn't.
You are Locked On Rockies, your daily Colorado Rockies podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, Rockies fans, and welcome to Locked On Rockies. This is the daily podcast. We talk all about the Colorado Rockies all season long. There's no off season here. Normally, your host is Paul Francis Holden, but now we've switched out that Holden for Sullivan. My name is Paul Francis Sullivan, but please, there's my lower third. You can call me Sully. Normally, I am the host of the Locked On MLB podcast, and I will continue to be the host of that this week. So if you listen to that show, you're going to get a double dose of your pal Sully. I'm an Emmy-nominated television producer who's been a baseball podcaster for the last decade or so, and I've been part of the Locked On Podcast Network for the last 5 years. Follow this show at LO_Rockies. If you want to follow, that's on Twitter. I'm assuming Twitter still exists. You can follow Paul at PaulHolden33 on Twitter. I am at Sully Baseball on Twitter, Sully Baseball Podcast on Instagram. So, I did a guest appearance on Friday's show. Paul's going to be taking a few days off here. You're going to have a few guest hosts here. I'm going to be doing this one on Monday, and I am really excited. I picked a good couple of days to pick up the reins on the Colorado Rockies because, let's face it, the Rockies have, they've been, it's not been the best year for the Rockies, but they're doing an interesting thing, and we've certainly seen this in the post-All-Star game world with the team, in that the Rocks went into the post-All-Star game period as the team with the worst record in the National League. And everyone was thinking, well, okay, well, the All-Star game MVP is pretty much going to be the highlight of the season for Rockies fans. And true to cruel form, he doesn't even get to wear the Rockies uniform when he does it. Now, this is one of the reasons why baseball is one of the greatest. It's, in my opinion, the greatest game of them all, and why the second half of the season, a team like the Rocks can be so dangerous. Because if you have teams like the New York Yankees, the Houston Astros, and the Miami Marlins are fighting for their playoff lives, and they all looked at the Rockies on their schedule and said, okay, we're going to pick up some wins there. And what we have seen, and this is really all you can ask for if you're a team that's out of contention, is the Rockies have said to the Yankees, to the Astros, and to the Marlins, not so fast. Not so fast. You think you're going to come in to our place? You think you're going to come into our dojo and just slap us around like we're supposed to lose? Now, of course, the Yankees went into Coors Field, dropped 2 out of 3. And Yankee fans were stunned, and the team sort of staggered to the next series, which they kind of sort of did poorly in. Then you saw the Astros come wandering in. They dropped the game, and they were kind of blindsided. Now, truth be told, I'm recording this right now on Sunday morning. So I'm going to be recapping the Friday and Saturday games. In the second segment, I'm going to be going over what happened on Sunday. But we saw that the Astros left the series with the Rocks and wound up dropping a game to the Oakland A's, one of the few teams that the Rockies can look down on. So you saw that got them a little bit in a bit of a tizzy. And then we saw what happened this weekend where the Rocks go to Miami, went to their cousin in the 1993 expansion, and look what happened the first 2 games. The Marlins busted out their 1997 specials with the teal hat and everything. By the way, those uniforms and the city uniforms are the coolest Marlins uniforms. The city uniforms the Marlins have are amazing with the blue hat and the red uni. I digress. But look what the Rocks did the first 2 games in Miami. Just got the Marlins, who going into the series were tied for the final wild card spot. They're hanging on. They're hanging on like they're on the rope bridge from Temple of Doom after it got cut, just trying to climb back up the cliff. And the Rocks said, oh, you looked at our schedule and say, okay, we're at home against the Rockies, and so you're going to feast on them. And no, No, especially it's odd because you took a look at the game that happened on Friday. The game that happened on Friday was interesting, was really interesting for this reason. First of all, Miami has to go on a winning streak. Okay. So in come the Rocks, and before the Marlins even come to bat, they're down 2-0 with Cron homering and Profar coming in. So that was 2-0 before one guy with a teal helmet steps to the plate. By the second inning, Trejo got that double. And by the way, how awful was the Marlins defense? I mean, they were making, you know, not just mistakes, but just being sloppy, dropping the ball when they're trying to hit the cutoff man and everything like that. So it's 3-0 going into the bottom of the second. And then Profar hits a home run. The next thing you know, it's 5-0 in the third. And then Diaz hits his home run, his first since the All-Star game MVP performance. So it's 6 bagel in the third. In a game where the Marlins have to get on a winning streak, they're at home against the poor Rockies, and they're down 6-0 by the third inning. And and at that point, they picked up one garbage run, and the Marlins scored a garbage run in the seventh. But a pretty that was a pretty rancid showing by the Marlins at a critical game. Lambert pitched 5 shutout innings. The bullpen, went the rest of the way. Hollowell finished it up. Bard gets another appearance in his what was probably his farewell tour with the Rockies. But that immediately got the Marlins back on their heels. It's like, oh wow, wait a second. This was supposed to be an easy series for us. What? Remember that expression on the face when the A's had, or when the Astros had, when they lost that game? Wait, what? This is supposed to be an easy win. No. And so I give the Marlins a little bit. Actually, who I give a lot of credit to is Johnny Cueto. This is one of these things that you'll when you look at box scores and everything like that, you take a look what happened on Saturday's game. Johnny Cueto of the Marlins sort of reached back, went into his time machine, and started pitching like he did when he was with the Reds or when he threw that complete game in the World Series. By the way, he's the answer to an interesting trivia question. Who was the last pitcher to throw a complete game in the World Series? The answer is Johnny Cueto with his cameo with the 2015 Kansas City Royals. Cueto was great. Cueto went back to being his dominant self. You take a look at the box score, what he did yesterday: 8 strikeouts, 1 walk, and 2 hits over 6 innings. He wound up pitching into the 7th. I mean, I don't know what the Marlins were expecting from him, but that was completely, everything they got out of him was a bonus. And, I was getting ready to pinch hit on this episode, and I thought, like, okay, well, there's your storyline. The first one, the Marlins were just blindsided. Second one, Johnny Cueto righted the ship. And it was the Marlins were wearing those beautiful red uniforms with the blue caps. That should be their normal uniforms, although I am fond of the teal. And Wendell got the hit that scored it early. You had Arise hitting that triple into the right field corner, and next thing you know, they're up. The Marlins are up 2-0 going into the 7th, and Cueto starts the 7th. They get the runner on base. They start to rally. Okay, time to take him out. And you got to think the Marlins bullpen thing. Okay, bullpen, give us 3 shutout innings. They couldn't give him 1. And Nolan Jones, by the way, Nolan Jones has turned into Captain Clutch. In fact, Nolan Jones has turned into the person you want up there to tie the game because up he stepped. You had Diaz and McMahon on. Next thing you know, Jones homers into the right field seats, and at that moment, everything was turned on its head. Everything was flipped upside down, and you could see, like, there was such confidence when Cueto was on the mound. Jones hits that home run, and you just saw the Marlins, the blood just draining from the Marlins' face. And then they got the Rocks got out of a jam in the seventh, and then Grichuk winds up getting a base hit. They take the lead, and they get the double play to end the game, and whoop-de-doo. And so with that, we're going to go over what happened on Sunday's game. But in many ways, it doesn't matter. If the Rockies lose 28-0, now you, my dear listeners who are living in the future, you know exactly what happens on Sunday. But the Rocks already did exactly what they were supposed to do, which is to take a team that is supposedly in contention, a wild card contender, and say, hey, you don't go through us. Every team that is an also-ran at this part has to do what the Rockies are doing right now, which is saying you are going to have to beat us. We are not going to roll over for you. With that loss, the Marlins fell out of a playoff spot. They're one game out. The Marlins are now, by the way, I don't know if you noticed this, but the Marlins are now on an 8-game losing streak. And I say this on my podcast all the time. There's never the right time, and it depends on the day. It depends on the amount. It's never the right time of the year to go on an 8-game losing streak or a 6-game losing streak. Well, at this point, when you're holding on for dear life, they went in on a 6-game losing streak saying, okay, we got the Rockies. We're going to win a few games. And the Rocks said, no, I don't think we're going to do that. The Rocks have won 6 out of their last 10 games. And every team they've played has been a contender. So if you're sitting there and you're still playing sub 400 ball, this is what you have to do. And if you're a Rockies fan, enjoy this. I'm going to be the bringer of bad news right here. The Rockies are not winning the 2023 National League pennant. But you know what? They can take a few people down with them. That's kind of the idea, isn't it? That's what I think. All right, it's time to bust out my Sleeper app and make my picks for the day. Have you downloaded Sleeper? I think Jerks and Profar is going to get a big hit for the Rockies today. And do you know what? I think Diaz is going to go deep. That's what I think. Now, I'm going to make those picks, and I'm going to come up big if they come through. Hey, do you want to make 100 times your money on daily fantasy baseball? Sleeper is now offering a 100 times payout for up to 8 pick contests. Choose as many as 8 players that you like and pick more or less on your favorite baseball stats like home runs, strikeouts, hits, and more. Get your picks right and you could win big. Now look at the Sleeper app is available wherever you get your apps. Put it right onto your phone and you can make those picks and come up big and ride your players the best you can. You're on a hot streak. You think Profar is going to keep hitting? You think CJ Cron's going to go deep? Do you know what? Make some money off of that. Why don't you? Sleeper comes through you every single time. It's safe and you get fast withdrawals. Use promo code Locked On. You'll get a $100 match on your first deposit. Terms and conditions apply. See Sleeper's terms and conditions for details, and it's currently operational in over 30 states. Check out Sleeper today. Okay, admit it. You thought it was going to be a sweep. I thought it was going to be a sweep. We all thought it was going to be a sweep. When Doyle hit that early home run on Sunday, by the way, I'm covering the Sunday game now in case you haven't figured that one out. He hit the home run early off of Luzardo in the 5th inning and then made a great running catch in the bottom of the same inning. I just thought this is going to be the Doyle game. And even though it was only 1-0, you just got the sense the Rockies were in control to the point where the Rockies TV booth was paying more attention to a golden labradoodle or something named Chewbacca, who they brought up because it was Bark in the Park Day at the Marlins Park or whatever the hell it's called now. Was it the Lone Depot Park? It's named after the guy Jay who has his first home from Lone Depot, and he puts on the record and he starts dancing and waters his cacti. Anyone who watches baseball on the MLB app, including myself, That's like the ad they play 50,000 times a day. Look, I'm happy Jay's got his apartment, but for God's sake, show us someone else that Loan Depot has helped out. Anyway, they were playing with the doggy Chewbacca instead of paying attention to the game at one point because of that. It's 1-0 in cruise control. Then Marlins score a couple of runs, and Skip Schumacher lets Luzardo wiggle out of a jam in the 7th inning. All right. And so now, yeah, I'm going to peel back the curtain a little bit here. When you do a podcast as often as I do, usually I'm doing Locked On MLB. This week I'm doing both Locked On MLB and Locked On Rockies, okay? And as the day is progressing, you start to think, okay, you start to plan what you think the podcast is going to be, sometimes even before the game is over. Here's the point. I'm going to talk about this, talk about that. I'm going to say this line, I'm going to make this observation. And then something happens, and you rip all that up, and you throw it all out. I'm listening to the game. At this point, I've switched back to the Rockies radio announcers as I'm listening to the game. And it gets to the 9th inning, and I'm thinking, do you know what? I think Meatloaf said it best when 2 out of 3 ain't bad. And then Grichuk came up. And Grichuk smashes that game-tying home run in the 9th inning when they were 2 outs away from losing the game. And then the Rocks just kept getting more and more hits. I'm thinking, holy Toledo, they're going to win this game. And so all of a sudden, I'm thinking sweep. And they start bringing up in the television booth, like the last time they swept the Marlins in South Florida was in 2006, and Corey Sullivan, no relation to me, was played in the game and got like a triple and a home run or whatever like that. And I'm going, oh my God, they're going to pull this off. And the Marlins wiggle out of the room, out of that jam, and then it goes into extras. Now, for those of you who don't know me, and I know I do, I've talked at length the fact that I hate Ghost Runner on second. I can't stand it. For you Rockies listeners who are new to me, I am a big proponent for tie after 12. I don't want to see a regular season game go 17, 18 games either. I don't want to have a utility infielder pitching. Okay, after 12 innings, I'm fine with a tie. I'm fine with a tie. If you think that's artificial, how's that any more artificial than the Ghost Runner on second? The whole point of extra innings is to get someone on base and get them into scoring position. Once you put them on there already, that's a bunch of T-ball garbage. I don't mind. I said this I think I said this with Paul the other day. I don't mind it when it was on the COVID year. A lot of things had to be different during the COVID year. But now, tie after 12. Or if you have to have Ghost Runner on second, have it after 12. Give us a couple innings of real extra inning baseball. If ties are just completely unacceptable in this culture, which I don't understand, then Ghost Runner starts on inning 13. Anyway, I digress. Rocks can't score, and then they pull. Then all of a sudden, and it actually looked like the Marlins were going to unravel when Gurriel got thrown out of the game in the 9th inning, and they had to put in what's his dude? I'm looking up his name. I'm sorry. Sometimes a lot of names bounce through my head. I'm in Locked On MLB. I'm following all 30 teams. It was Cooper. Thank you. Cooper was not in the regular lineup because he was ill. And Gurriel gets thrown out of the game on a called third strike in the 9th, and so they had to bring in Cooper. But then Ghost Runner gets on, and they walk Fortes, who's not good, to get a rise up there. And then I praised Buddy Black when I was on the Locked On Rockies show on Friday. I said I don't mind Bud Black. And then he had his was a bomb of the 10th inning he had there. So there was a run. Their bases are juiced right now. And up comes Luis Ariz. And what does he do? He takes Profar out of the game. Profar, who got on base 3 times, okay, by the way, took him out so he could put Castro in to be the fifth infielder. And what that does is it forces Doyle and Jones, the two outfielders, to squish in and give all of right field. You have the whole thing. There was a pasture. It looked like the land rush from Oklahoma out there. Just it was a meadow as far as the eye could see, without a single fielder in right field. And up steps Luis Ariz, who's one of the best, if not the best hitter in baseball in terms of being able to control his bat and everything like that. And you're going to give him all a right field? Excuse me, I had to cough there for a second. That's how worked up I'm getting. Now, it's funny. At that point, for reasons I don't quite understand, I had switched over to listening to the Marlins radio broadcaster, who, as it was happening, as Bud Black took out Profar and squished in the outfield so they could have five infielders, the Marlins broadcasters were losing their minds, saying, "Why are they doing this? Why are they giving Luis Ariz all of right field, knowing full well he'll take one look around and say, oh, all I got to do is get any hit over there, and we win the game." And I said, "Why are they doing this?" This was not a second guess. This was a guess as it was happening. And what did Ariz do? Hit it exactly to where there were no fielders. He probably took one look around and said, oh, I don't even have to hit it well. I just have to hit it somewhere in that general area, and an 8-game losing streak will be over. And the Marlins, and if you listen to Locked On MLB on Monday, you'll hear that one of the things that Miller Thomas and I are going to be talking about is the fact that it seems like nobody wants to win the National League wild card. The Marlins have been in an absolute free fall. And while they lost the series, if you're going to only win one game of a series, have it be the last one. Because at least you're ending the series on a positive note. And that's exactly what they did. And it's weird because it leaves a kind of a weird sour taste in your mouth if you're following the Rockies. Yes, game one, they smacked around the Marlins. Game two, they had the great comeback. This game, everything was working well. And do you know what? If Gurriel hit a walk-off home run, or hell, if Ariz hit a walk-off home run, you tip your cap. You say, do you know what? What are you going to do? You could say Rocks came in, they took 2 out of 3. It took an extra inning win for them to salvage anything at home. But when it was a dumb managerial decision and not something you say, well, hindsight is 20/20, as it was happening, the people who follow Ariz day to day were the ones saying, what are they doing? I mean, they were completely incredulous. They were acting like they had already won. And to the surprise of absolutely not one person on planet Earth, and it was bark in the park day in Miami. So even the dogs were going, "What? Why is there no one in right field?" Chewy the dog, who was in the TV announcer booth, was looking around and said, "No one in right field for Luis Ariz." Maybe I'm starting to understand, Rockies fans. Maybe I'm beginning to understand some of your frustration with Bud Black. This was a wonderful weekend for the Rockies. Hell, this game was. You forced them to win in extra innings in their own park. You got the home run by Grichuk. You got them on their heels. But there's something slightly off-putting about it. You know what? You're going to win games. You're going to lose games. Just try not to lose games because you did something dumb. There's not enough time to deal with dumb. And I'm sorry. Today was dumb. Okay, we're back. Let's just take a quick peek at a couple things. The Rocks are about to start a series with the Washington Nationals. There's some good news going on. Carl Kaufman looks like he's going to be activated, and he is going to be back on the team when he's going to be adding a little bit of new depth to the Rocks. Looks like Austin Gomber is going to be pitching. And Kyle Freeland is making a little bit of progress. He has a simulated game he's throwing on Tuesday, and they're open by the weekend. He's going to be coming back. So if they keep improving their pitching staff as we're going on in the series against Washington, that's not a bad thing. Here's the other thing. Chris Flexen, who was a recent acquisition. He started the year, obviously, with the Mariners. Was very good a couple of years ago. Things really started falling apart, but he got signed by the Rocks at the All-Star break. He was playing for AAA Albuquerque. I have a bunch of cousins who live in Albuquerque, so go out to an Isotopes game, especially my cousins are listening to there. And he's going to be pitching. He started on Sunday, and we're going to see if he's going to be ready to come to join the team over this week. So it's going to be an interesting few days. We're also going to see what some of the other injuries that are happening here. Chris Bryant didn't play today. Neither did CJ Cron. They were both scratched from the lineup because there was Bryant was taken out after he got hit by a pitch by Johnny Cueto on what day did he pitch? On Saturday. And then Cron took the day off as well. So, Buddy Black is saying that he's not 100% sure when they're going to be coming back, but they're hoping they'll be back in time for the series against the Nats. And so a string of series where the Rockies are playing contenders have come to an end, but they will be playing the Nationals. And it's interesting because both the Nationals and the Rocks are out of it. And only a game or so separates the two of them. The Nationals just smacked the Giants around. And the Giants went into the National Series thinking they were in good shape and looked at the schedule and said, oh, look, we've got a bunch of games against the Nats. They'll be easy. Hey, how'd that work out for a bunch of teams against the Rockies? So now you have two underachieving teams facing off. And the interesting thing is one of them has to win and one of them has to lose. So we're going to see what the Rockies are going to be doing. They have these games against the Nats that's going to start they have the day off on Tuesday. And then, this is a period of the schedule which is really interesting because they're going to be playing the Nats, they're going to be playing the Oakland A's, they're going to be playing the Padres, who at that point may have already traded away some of their stars. And then they're going to be playing St. Louis. They're not going to be playing another contender until the second week of August, basically, where they'll wind up playing the Brewers and the Dodgers. So interesting time. Of course, by then it will be past the trade deadline. So we'll see if Colorado is going to actually have some of the depth in their bullpen. We'll see where some of these pitchers come back, how things go. So that's how the weekend went. Two terrific games. Actually, three games that were a lot of fun. The win on Friday, the win on Saturday. It just leaves a bad taste in your mouth when the final game is lost because of a questionable managerial decision. Anyway, hey, here's a little thing that I do on Locked On MLB, and you could try it here at Locked On Rockies. Follow us on Twitter at LO_Rockies. Follow Paul, your normal host, at Paul Holden 33 on Twitter. Look at my lower third right there. You can follow me at Sully Baseball on Twitter, Sully Baseball Podcast on Instagram. If you're listening to us, I'm going to throw out a trivia question here. And I do this at the end of my Locked On MLB ones, and I'm going to do it here as well. So here's a trivia question for you, and send your answers to that address at Sully Baseball. The trivia question is this: when the Rockies had their pennant-winning year in 2007, who was their lone All-Star representative? Who was the only team representing the 2007 eventual National League champion Rockies at the All-Star game? So, in 2007. So, follow us at all those places. And I'm going to be here. I'm going to be here on Tuesday. I believe I'm here Wednesday as well. I think Ethan Smith, who's normally of Locked On Pirates, is going to guest host another one. I may do another one, or there may be another guest host. Either way, having a lot of fun talking with you Rockies fans. This has been Locked On Rockies for the 24th day of July 2023. I'm your guest host, Paul Francis Sullivan. Please call me Sully.